Hey athletes, time to talk about the sled drag. This is an awesome exercise if you're like me and you don't really like to use machines all that much. This is great if you want a good quad pump, if you want to avoid the leg extension machine, and if your athlete doesn't really understand what an athletic stance is, this is a great way to teach them and reinforce it. Plus, you're going backward. That's challenging for a lot of people, especially if they're a runner, especially if they're biking, whatever the heck they're doing. Most likely, they're not going backward. This is an awesome exercise to try to make them go backwards. So let's watch it. Athletic stance and backpedaling. Okay? Pretty simple, right? Not necessarily the case. So when we're going backward, again, you can see my athletic stance, except for the fact that I do have to sit my hips a little bit lower than normal, just because I have something pulling me forward. So in order to counterbalance that, yeah, I got to drop my hips a little bit, which is why my quads turn on a little bit more than they would if I could have been totally tipped forward. But you can see, when I start this motion, I'm a little bit more bent over. Okay, this is more my athletic stance, but again, as soon as that weight tugs me forward, I got to counterbalance it, and this is the best you can do on a sled, but that's fine. So, what I'm doing is, again, this is a great way to teach your athletes to hold this position. Look at that. I'm still in my athletic stance. Everything's cocked and ready to go. Again, if they don't feel comfortable jumping, or let's say their kettlebell swings are suffering because of their positioning, this is a great way to just emphasize it. Also, this also teaches them to keep their arms out of the equation. Just let those suckers dangle, okay? So again, if they're kettlebell swing, it looks more like some of the faults. And again, if you haven't seen the kettlebell swing video, go back, okay? It'll teach you a bunch of stuff. But in that kettlebell swing video, you saw where the hands rose before the hips. Again, this will help fix that. This will help keep their arms out of the equation. And if people have a tendency to round their upper back, you can see I have to be really active in keeping my shoulders down and back so that this sled doesn't pull me out of position. This thing teaches you a lot of good lessons. And finally, my favorite is, in order to move backward, you have to push down into the ground, okay? Especially if you want to get some speed going. You really have to kick the floor away. Again, if they're having problems with step-ups, if they're having problems with lunges, or even just feeling their legs, really emphasize kicking the ground. Now, they certainly have to kick the ground that way so that they can go backward, but again, you're re-emphasizing the fact that they're striking the floor. And finally, they're not doing their heels. They're kicking, 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 and there you have your sled drag.